What's crackin', bitches? Today we is doing something for the old ass jits. If you're under the age of 40, you probably don't know who this is. O.J. Simpson, otherwise known as The Juice, one of the greatest running backs of all time and an inspiration to little children everywhere. The Juice was born in San Francisco in 1947. His mom was a hospital administrator, and his dad, Jimmy Simpson, was a chef and a bank custodian. OJ's dad was a well-known drag queen in the San Francisco area who would eventually admit that he's gay, and then he died of AIDS in 1986. OJ Simpson grew up in the projects of the Potrero Hill neighborhood, and by the age of 13, he joined a street gang called the Persian Warriors. OJ would eventually end up in the San Francisco Youth Guidance Center. His future wife described him as a really awful person back then. A man named Willie Mays, who was a baseball star, would encourage OJ to avoid trouble, so OJ Simpson played football in high school. And although Simpson was a beast on the field, he had mediocre grades and universities weren't that interested in him. So he played at a city college in San Francisco. At first, they were a crappy team, but as OJ is their running back and defensive back, he led the team to a Prune Bowl victory against Long Beach State. Truly an inspiration. It was around this time where OJ got married at 19. Him and his first wife would end up having 3 children. Simpson would transfer to the University of Southern California, where he led the nation in rushing in 1967 and ran for 1,500 yards. And in 1968, he ran for an impressive 1,800 yards. In 1967, he was a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy, where he lost to Gary Beben. Personally, I think OJ got robbed because Gary didn't have much of a career after college. And during 1967, football was just starting to become popular in the U.S. There was only one Super Bowl so far, and O.J. Simpson would play one of the greatest college games of all time. It was the USC Trojans with my man O.J. Simpson versus the UCLA Bruins with that bitch-ass Gary Beben. The game was close, starting the fourth quarter at 14-14. Beben threw a touchdown, making it 20-14, but missed the extra point. The Trojan QB called a pass play, but saw the Bruins drop back into pass coverage, so he handed it to OJ, the Juice, who ran 64 yards, and USC ended up winning by 1 point. After this season, OJ did end up winning the Heisman Trophy. OJ would end up being drafted first overall by the Buffalo Bills, who sucked donkey balls, finishing 1-12-1 in 1968. Simpson demanded the largest contract in professional sports history, $650,000 over 5 years, and the bitch-ass owner, Ralph Wilson, didn't want to pay OJ, so OJ threatened to quit and become an actor. Wilson did end up paying OJ. And honestly, OJ wasn't that good at first, averaging 622 yards per season. The Bills would end up firing a few coaches and brought in Lou Saban, who made OJ the centerpiece of the Bills. And in 1972, OJ rushed for 1,200 yards, leading the league, and then he became the first player to rush for over 2,000 yards, and he got 12 touchdowns. To this day, Simpson is the only player to rush 2,000 yards in 14 games. Other players have rushed 2,000 since, but that's when the season expanded to 16 games. OJ would win the MVP, the Burt Bell Award, in the hearts of millions of Americans. The Juice could do no wrong, ever. OJ would usually rush over 1,000 yards each season and had more rushing yards than any other active player. However, his team only made one playoff appearance in 1974, as the Bills always had a terrible defense. People liked OJ and thought he deserved better. He was in commercials, owned hotels, restaurants, and even had small roles in movies. His football career started to become hopeless. One game against the Patriots, he was stuffed by several players. OJ tried to push through and ended up getting body slammed. Simpson would get up and punch the player who body slammed him, who also swung back. This turned into a brawl, and the Bills would finish 2-12. During this time, 1977, OJ would start dating a nightclub waitress named Nicole Brown while he was still married to his first wife. The Bills would trade OJ to the 49ers, where OJ had 2 average seasons. He retired, and many people refuse to admit that OJ is one of the top 5 greatest running backs of all time. And that's for one reason and one reason only. Despite his record-breaking statistics that still hold up to this day, he never won a Super Bowl. Individual statistics don't mean as much if you don't have a ring. Ask Karl Malone. OJ ran 2,000 yards in 14 games during the 70s, and that's when defenses were rougher. Helmet hits were legal back then. An unfortunate detail, right before OJ retired, one of his kids drowned in their family swimming pool, so make sure to watch your kids. And OJ officially divorced his first wife too. After football, he decided to become an actor, stating, "The Oscar or the Emmy says you've reached a level of competence in this business, and I would love to have one." During football, he made an appearance in Roots and The Towering Inferno, but his biggest role came in the late 80s and early 90s. That was the Naked Gun trilogy, and I guess that was like the Scary Movie trilogy of its time. OJ would get married to Nicole Brown in 1985, had 2 kids, and they were a very happy family. Couple goals for sure. They would get divorced in 1992. Then in 1993, they attempted reconciliation and were described as dramatic, fractious, mutually obsessed couple before they married, when they were married, after they divorced, and after they reconciled. But in 1994, OJ did something truly horrendous. And what I'm about to say will make your blood boil. Get ready. O.J. Simpson made Robert Kardashian famous. This stupid trial from 1994 made Robert Kardashian a celebrity, which was the catalyst for Kim becoming a celebrity and the rest of the Kardashians. You are not my hero anymore, OJ. So anyway, Nicole Brown and the new dude she was banging, Goldman, were stabbed to death, and O.J. Simpson was obviously a suspect.
This guy Charlie shows up, the guy who I had recently become friends with, and I don't know why he had been by Nicole's house, but it told me you wouldn't believe what's going on over there. And I remember thinking, well, whatever's going on over there has got to stop, right? So we kind of hooked up together, and I'm kind of broad stroking this. We go over, get in the Bronco and go over.
You park in the alley.
Yeah.
And you put on a wool cap and gloves.
Well, I put on a cap and gloves.
Right.
Yeah.
And you reached under the seat for?
A knife. I always kept a knife in the car for the crazies and stuff because you can't travel with a gun. And I remember Charlie saying, you ain't bringing that. And I didn't, right? But I believe he took it.
Charlie took the knife?
Yeah.
The back gate, you go through the back gate?
Yes.
And it was open or broken or?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I go to the front and I'm looking to see what's going on. And I can see that it appears like Nicole had candles all the time. She really did, to keep her overhead down, I think. And music was on, and while I was there, a guy shows up.
So Ron Goldman comes in the back gate.
Yeah, a guy I really didn't recognize. I may have seen him around, but I really didn't recognize him to be anyone. And in the mood I was in, I started having words with him.
He says to you, I just came by to return a pair of glasses. Judy left them at the restaurant.
Yeah, words to that effect, yes.
And he was
I don't know if I believed it or didn't believe it. It was pretty much immaterial because, I was more concerned about everything that was going on, and was fed up with it, I guess. And
you get into a fight. Nicole comes out.
A verbal
fight.
Got a little loud, and by that time, Nicole had come out, and we started having words about who is this guy, why is he here, what's going on.
And she says, this is my house, get the F out of here.
Yes, which I didn't like because, once again, this is the same person. And if you read the book, you'll see some things that happened in the 2 weeks leading up to this that were very, very irritating, you know. And I think Charlie had followed this guy in, wanted to make sure there was no problem, and he brought the knife. As things got heated, I just remember Nicole fell and hurt herself. And this guy kind of got into a karate thing. And I said, well, you think you can kick my ass? And I remember I grabbed the knife. I do remember that portion, taking the knife from Charlie. And to be honest, after that, I don't remember. Except I'm standing there and there's all kind of stuff around and
What kind of stuff?
blood and stuff around. You know, I hate to say this, but this is hypothetical. I'm sorry.
Right.
I know we got to back up again.
Right. It's okay.
So OJ tried to get away in a white Bronco driven by his friend Al Cowlings. OJ was apparently pointing a gun to his head and threatening to blow his brains out. TV stations interrupted the NBA Finals to show this boring-ass chase. The court case was well covered. I don't know why. Court cases are boring, and it became a part of pop culture. Johnny Cochran, one of his lawyers, was spoofed on Seinfeld and South Park. Robert Kardashian, who was actually friends with Nicole Brown, became famous too. And after 11 months, he was found not guilty, and he celebrated with his family.
It's been a really tough year, for tough 15 months for all of us. And not only have we lost Nicole, we've lost OJ too.
To this day, nobody has been arrested for the murder of Nicole Simpson or Ron Goldman.
Model for everyone. It's very successful, very visible, very articulate. It was very good for all the kids. And it's really sad what's happening right now.
However, Ron Goldman's family filed a civil lawsuit against O.J. Simpson. A jury found Simpson liable for the wrongful death of Goldman, and Simpson was ordered to pay $33 million in damages. O.J.'s belongings, including his Heisman, would be auctioned off, netting $500,000, which was given to the Goldman family. Most Americans believe that O.J. committed the murders. He actually dated a woman who was 30 years younger than him, who said he frequently threatened to kill her and compared her to Nicole. She believes he did it, but a bitter ex-girlfriend will say anything about a guy they hate. He's still the juice.
She stood by O.J. for 13 years, but now Christy Brody says she feared for her life. Brody claims O.J. subjected her to constant physical and emotional abuse and even threatened to kill her, something he denies. It was a relationship few could understand, with bizarre beginnings. Brody says she first met O.J. in 1995 outside his Brentwood estate. Like thousands of others, she had gone to the popular tourist attraction, curious about the murders of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. O.J. approached her, and the Minnesota-born cocktail waitress, 30 years his junior, quickly fell in love. They later moved to Florida together, but the romance turned rocky. Brody says O.J. constantly compared her to Nicole and convinced her to get breast implants to look more like his deceased ex-wife. Police were even called 4 times to intervene in their relationship. During one of their well-publicized blow-ups, O.J. called 911 from Brody's apartment.
Where's your emergency? We have a problem here. I'm trying to get a girl to go to rehab. We've been doing drugs for 2 days.
Brody says she's convinced O.J. committed the murders based on comments he made over the years, claiming he told her details only the killer would know.
The public didn't accept him anymore after the trial. He was in no more movies, no more commercials, and people today don't remember him as an actor or a football player, just somebody who got away with murder. O.J. would even write a book called If I Did It, Confessions of a Murderer. Over the years, O.J. would get arrested for petty charges, battery, theft, speeding, and worst of all, using illegal electronic devices to pirate its broadcast signals. In 2006, he made his comeback with a prank show called Juiced. It was accompanied by a music video of O.J. rapping. He pranked people, and at the end, he'd say, "You got juiced."
And I saw O.J. Simpson working there. I'd not buy a car.
I actually sold the worst used car ever. I mean, this was a Bronco with a bullet hole in it and seats with holes in it. Watch that.
If I was at a bingo parlor and I saw that it was O.J. Simpson up there giving the calls, it would scare me.
Simpson and several others entered a room at the Palace Station Hotel Casino and took sports memorabilia at gunpoint. Simpson admitted to taking the memorabilia, but only because it was stolen from him. OJ got sentenced to 33 years. He got a harsh sentence because they couldn't get him for the murder, so they gave him the longest possible sentence for this. OJ did get out of prison 9 years later on parole, and he's currently doing the Nelk podcast. So what do you guys think of the juice? I'm out.
This is a good man. He made a mistake. And if he called me tomorrow and said, Bruce, I'm getting out, will you pick me up? Juice, I'll be here tomorrow. I mean that, though.